If your hydrogen game needs a boost, NEL ASA is your go-to. Hear it straight from CEO Mr. Hakon Volldal. At World Hydrogen Week in Copenhagen, we caught up with Mr. Volldal to discuss NEL ASA's pivotal role in the hydrogen industry. As one of the oldest electrolyser OEMs, NEL ASA is setting benchmarks in innovation and sustainability. Stay tuned for insights from the industry leader himself.
Hello everyone, we are here at World Hydrogen Leaders at Copenhagen, Denmark, and we have with us Mr. Hakon Volldal, the CEO himself from NEL. We'll be first asking certain questions with regards to what the company is all about, their leadership, and of course the kind of trends that they're following and they are mastering in this particular industry. So to begin with, it's going to be 100 years very soon for the company. So how do you feel about it?
Well, obviously we're proud that we are the oldest electrolyser OEM in the market. Not because it's just 100 years, but a century of innovation. I think we do have 3,500 electrolysers installed in the market. So we have the operational experience, we have the data to back performance guarantees, to also stand behind the claims we make on energy efficiencies and reliability, uptime of the equipment. But a lot has happened in the century, and we're not resting on our laurels. We're trying to move forward and improve the products we have in our portfolio as much as possible every single day, and at the same time bring new innovations to market with respect to second generation solutions or next generation solutions.
Great. And I was reading in your vision as well, sir, empowering generations, right? And when it comes to clean energy forever. So how's that? Is there anything that you have in mind when it comes to the generations to come? Because obviously we're talking about sustainability over here. And keeping that in mind, is there anything specific that you've planned over the years?
Well, I think if you look at decarbonization efforts, a lot can be achieved by electrifying directly. Maybe 70 to 80% of emissions can be, abated by electrifying directly. But there is still, a 20, 30% slice of the total that you need to decarbonize using hydrogen. Right now, we believe, that the industrial applications at scale involving green hydrogen are important in order to reduce emissions. And then we're talking refinery, methanol, ammonia production or fertilizer production. Over time, there will be the mobility sector, there will be the power sector. And more specifically, I think long term, hydrogen will act as the battery for renewable electricity production. There's no way the energy system can survive unless you have hydrogen to balance the energy supply. So that is what we try to do. We try to develop cost-effective solutions to allow companies to decarbonize heavy industry today, and for the future it will be about balancing the energy system, the grid.
And so is there any particular geographic area that you are actually looking out at? Because considering the fact that Asia Pacific is a big market for this, and obviously Europe again is something that you must have been always having at the back of your mind. But is there anything specific as far as the region is concerned?
I think if you ask me now, I'll give you one answer, and then you can come back in 6 months and maybe the answer is different. And that's what I actually love about hydrogen, that it's so dynamic. If you had asked me a year ago, I would say the US would drive the energy transition because of the Inflation Reduction Act, the subsidies available. Now we've waited 2 years for clarifications on the exact regulations,
right?
And they still haven't been published by Treasury. I think Europe is now back in the lead. Europe will not have lots of gigawatt projects, but they will have a lot of mid-sized projects that will drive the hydrogen economy forward. Europe will also start to import a lot of hydrogen or hydrogen derivatives. long term, I think Asia will be extremely important, both as importers. Then, we're looking at countries like Japan, South Korea. India is importing a lot of its energy today. But as you build out renewable energy, you will also be in a position where you can export. So some Asian countries will be net importers, other Asian countries will be net exporters. I think short term, my bet is on Europe. Long term, I would expect Asia to drive the hydrogen economy.
Excellent. And how about the experience here, sir? I mean, I know it's too early to talk about it, but then when we talk about the experience over here, you've got so many collaborators, you've got companies coming in. So how does this kind of an exhibition work for you, for them?
Well, I mean, it's almost an industry in itself. There are people just traveling around attending exhibitions, throughout the year. But there are some events that are more important than others. And I think for us, this is a good opportunity to meet with customers, with partners, with potential prospects, especially now that the industry is going through some challenging times. It's good to sort of figure out who's still interested, who's going to be around. So it's just a cost-effective way of meeting partners and customers. And for us being a Norwegian company, or at least we're sort of half American, half Norwegian, but Norway is close to Copenhagen, Denmark. It's natural for us to be here and try to meet as many customers and partners as possible.
So I was actually coming to the cost effectiveness of it. When I read on your website somewhere that valuing technology that is very cost effective, and something that the next, I've already asked you these questions, but the next generation is something that we value. And so obviously hydrogen being such a big part of it, what do you think probably 10 years down the line would be the future for you? And is there anything planned, or is there anything specific that you want to talk about?
Well, I think if you work for NEL, it's partly because of our purpose. We want to make sure that we can reduce climate emissions, and that our children can have a good future. So we're on a mission to decarbonize. In order to do that, I think we need to acknowledge that hydrogen today is not cost competitive versus fossil fuels. It is too expensive. We need customers that are willing to move forward, that are pioneers and invest into hydrogen, even though it's more expensive than oil and gas. There are some of those companies. There are, mid-sized companies like NEL that have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into developing technology. We will continue to do that. There are big corporations like Reliance, which is a partner of NEL's in India, that will invest billions into building gigafactories for electrolysers and use hydrogen to decarbonize their own operations. And so I think over time, green hydrogen will become more and more cost competitive. But we need to acknowledge that there's a way to go until we are there. And maybe some people are disappointed that it's not moving fast enough, but I think we're moving at a very fast pace. NEL plans to launch new products in the coming years that will dramatically reduce the capex and improve the opex. And I think that will, bridge some of the gaps. Then we're looking for the EPCs, integrators, to reduce their costs. We're expecting, the uses of hydrogen to reduce the investments required to actually use green hydrogen in their production processes, to figure out, more cost-effective ways of doing that. So if every single, player along the value chain can do their part, I'm convinced that green hydrogen will become, a very good alternative to oil and gas in a few years.
So, there's one question that I would want to ask you. You've already talked about IRA.
Yeah.
There are regulatory agencies that are monitoring, be it any geography, right? Anything that you have in mind for these regulatory agencies, do as quickly as possible, because obviously when people are talking about it, people are attending exhibitions. Anything specific that you want to talk about when it comes to these regulatory agencies?
I think a prerequisite is having regulations in place. Uncertainty is what kills most business cases.
Yes.
If you know what you're dealing with, you can plan around it, or you can conclude that it's not possible, but at least you know what you're dealing with. Uncertainty is just bad. In the EU, we have a fairly good regulation in place. I believe there are things that can be improved. I would like it to be more generous, more money available, because as long as you're not willing to price carbon correctly, you need to subsidize hydrogen. Although I think the best would be if you could just price carbon correctly, then we didn't have to subsidize green hydrogen. But since we're not willing to price carbon, you have to subsidize hydrogen. And I wish the regulations would be more, they would be richer. Then I would allow the pioneers to have more flexibility around, additionality and how you take advantage of existing renewable power. I support sort of calls to give companies some space until 2035. It's currently 2028, I think, in Europe, and then you need to build new renewable power to produce green hydrogen. So I would support that. In the US, we don't have clarity. So just coming out with something is the first step. Now, if I could influence that, I would say the program is rich. We're talking, hundreds of billions of dollars, but we need to put that money to work. And step one, publicize the regulations, and two, give the early movers some benefits. Some grandfathering schemes where you can take advantage of existing curtailed renewable power instead of building new power. Because if you have to build new power, permitting, waiting for necessary equipment to build that renewable power will delay project by years.
Right.
So that's my fear, that it's too stringent, too strict initially. But honestly, publicize it, get it done. That's step one.
So final words on the research and development. I'm sure that there's a lot of research which is taking place as far as NEL is concerned. But then anything specific you want to talk about on research, whatever that you're doing?
As I said, we start with the levelized cost of hydrogen. And for our customers, if our customers can't, move forward with the project, there is no need to buy equipment from NEL. Hence, we start with levelized cost of hydrogen, and it's impacted by power prices, which we can't really impact. We can't decide power prices, but we can make sure that the electrolyzer uses as little power as possible, that it's as efficient as possible. So that's what we do. We spend a ton of efforts on how can we make sure that we have the most energy efficient electrolyzers in the world. That's where I think we have a head start on most of the industry, yes, including China, in particular when it comes to China. So we have much more advanced coatings, much more advanced electrochemistry in our electrolyzers than most competitors. Second, capex. Even though I think we cannot compete with China on capex alone, we have to make very cost competitive products still. We will try to beat them on efficiency, but we need still to bring the cost down. So we have maybe a different design concept that will allow us to offset some of the supply chain advantages you have in China and India by having a smarter design. And then third, reliability. It doesn't matter if an electrolyzer is half the price, if it breaks down after 3, 4, 5 years, then you have to replace it. So we need to do all of that. We have to consume as little energy as possible. It has to be as cheap as possible, and it has to be as reliable as possible. And that's a NEL philosophy. We need to look at everything, just not optimize one driver only. And as I said, every single day we improve our existing products. We improve the efficiency. We get the cost down on the all atmospheric electrolyzer concept. Cost is down by 10% year on year. Efficiency is up by 5 percentage points. In 25, we will pilot a new pressurized alkaline system. And we aim to get the total capex per kilogram of hydrogen down to what McKinsey says can only be done in 2040, 2050. We aim to do that this decade, before 2030.
That's big.
That's big.
Right. So Thank you so much, Volldal. It's a pleasure talking to you on
Nice
this.
talking to you.
And we're sure that our viewers, our readers, viewers, both would look forward to this interview. And thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you.